encore, boom, ankara messi, amadio, ankara messi, amadio, ankara messi, kike, boom, ankara messi, ankara, boom, ankara messi, messi. I think I'm trying to move the left hand less. So I think when I want to do that, nisi. Don't worry, I'm just moving. Okay, I guess no. Cha, boom cha, boom agua, baba, agua, met your boom, my dear. Welcome, I'm back. Muggy here. Brrr, like, share, subscribe. Buy my art, buy my merchandise, subscribe on Patreon, and donate. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. Yes, you got it. At Ozibangwoko and $ Ozibangwoko. The at is the first two, $ Cash App. Anyway, call this one Anyanwu. Oh, Kalakanu. Anyway, what am I doing with my writing now? What's the goal? I think I really want to iron out my work stuff. My ancestors are concerned with other things. So we'll see what happens. Yes, Kainule Oha. Kabrunam no Goha. Kabrunam no Goha. Kabrunam no Goha. Abum all Goha. Abum all Goha. The Uku. Abumo Paruku Chuku. Inkoko. Abum Nabe. Abum Nabe. Abumo Paranabe. Kabe. Abumo Paranabe. Registered viewers, thank you. Every view is a blessing. Thank you for the comment. Every comment is a blessing. I read comments at my discretion. Hello to you as well. Mishte Y2D. Yes. Abum Kamalune Ijaya. Let's hit it at the right second. Yes, there we go. 15's on the screen. That's the number of the Holy Mother. You can also call her the Seal. You can also call her the Herald. I tend to call it Ninem, Nne, Einem, Anyim, means our greatness. Apparently, when I say it's common now, I don't know. But apparently in Ebem, the word people use for the ocean is Einem. And generally, the word people use for the ocean, I mean, ocean, I don't even know how to say it. Ocean. Like, Oshun is just another pronunciation for ocean. Oshun is the ocean. The ocean. Now, that concept is vaster than the body of water we're looking at, which is actually only half or part the ocean, like metaphysically. I know that's what people call it in English, but you know what I mean. Anyway, the ocean, Oshun, the goddess of love archetype, the ocean, same thing. She's endless. Oh, buzzy, ba, boomo, buzzy, karaya, nuwa. Abumo buzzy oki kekan. Abumo buzzy zize zuza. Abumo buzzy zize zuza. Abumo buzzy he hoo ha. Abumo buzzy kaka. Abumo buzzy karayana uwa. Abumo buzzy oki kekan. Abumo buzzy si susa. Abumo buzzy amadioha. Abumo buzzy karaniveya. Abumo buzzy nepera. Epera abume pera. Kala kanobiko juneba. Jupiter boom Jupiter. Jupiter boom Jupiter. Boom Jupiter. Aboom Jupiter. Aboom Jupiter, Jupiter, Jupiter. Jaja aboom amadi yuhanivea. Aboom agui garagi heneba. Aboom agui monami heneba. Ka. Ha. Aboom amadi yuhanivea. Aboom amadi yuha. Ka, ka, ka. What am I saying? I'm the good husband of the people and his gang. More specifically, I'm the good husband of the people and his crew or his weave. Think about a bunch of animals going in and out, and then there's me in the middle. That's what I'm saying. Abu Mamadi Yuhanivea. Abu Mamadi Yuhasi Sa. Abu Mamadi Yuha Biba. Ekeji Kebu Amadi Abu Mekeji Kenike ya Abu Mamunike Amadio Abu Mamunike Ukike Kan 8, the number of a bussy, endless. You can also just call him 8. The man who can always get it done somehow, even if it looks ugly. That's Obussy. Let me talk about the concept of an Obussy Ebido. The endless beginning. When you say it like that, that shows how horrible that could be. You see, Obussy is one of the 49 things. Yes, I'm going into stories again. Each of the things, it's best to think of like their person even when they're not until you're getting really granular because, it's hard to process the actions of a non-person. But anyway, how did a bussy begin? You see, it was decreed that there needed to be a man who could just somehow get it done because none of the other men could do that. There were some women who could do that, but none of the men could. There just was a gap. So let's create a man who could do that. It just so happened that when Amadio ran the specifications, in order for a man to learn how to somehow get it done, he had to have the worst possible beginning. You see, there's a common misconception that the greatest man alive started from the bottom. It's not true. Learning new information from the ancestors. Let's just speak. The greatest man alive did not start from the bottom. He didn't even start. And then he appeared in the middle as a titi, and then he was Kalakano. Hapuelele. In order for something to get a beginning, it must, one, be consciously created by those who created you, and two, it must provide you with something. If someone was not provided with anything, they were not even began. Elebira. We should not have so much Ella in the world today. So many people are born without anything. And I want to say this physical junk is not necessarily anything. And I'll leave it at that. So, Obussy Ebido. Now, in order for Obussy to have the worst possible beginning, they had to look into the depth of the problem with Kalakana. What was the problem with Kalakana? The problem with Kalakana is he was not answering insults. He had this idea that Azu Anagiuka. Ironically, that is a proverb that my dad used to give to me. That basically the back does not hear talking. So if someone is gossiping about you, don't worry about it. Now that I think about it, I think I just let that thing wash over me. Because why would you not somehow try and fish out gossip? I think, here we go. Let's contemplate this. You see, I'll be honest, my ancestors are telling me I need to look at my worst enemy more. I don't like doing it. And I'll leave it at that. How do I not have a father properly? Anyway, so let's contemplate this. People are gossiping about you. Why would you not want that to go away? That could go all sorts of left. This is the problem. People who gossip lie and they hide. Let's think about it from my perspective. I'm a very aggressive person. But if I'm ganged up on by a bunch of liars, unless I have enough Zabu Okike to unless I have enough Zabu Okike to there's not really a point in me engaging them from my perspective. Side note, my ancestors disagree, but I don't really hear them well, and at the end they tell me something about me being loved. And to be honest, I find love kind of useless if it's theoretical. If I just hear that someone out there somewhere distantly loves me, that's like if I see an angel number every once in a while. Not that interesting. I just go, whatever, maybe eventually it'll help me in the end. I want it now. Anyway, let me go for a walk. Anyway, let's get into the story. So, Kala kind of was not answering insults. Why? He just thought, whatever, something, something, I don't need to answer it. This is Ihan Lihan. You need to answer your insults. Side note, the ancestors were telling me literally people would insult him to his face and he wouldn't answer. That I actually can't understand. That's not me. If you insult me to my face, only thing is sometimes there are constraints. So I have to do like this. Anyway, so two types of insults: the insult to the face, and the worst one, the insult behind the back. Insult to the face, just answer it right away. If you can't answer it right away, it becomes an insult behind the back. Now, the insult behind the back. Problem there is a lot of complications. There are two methods. One, you go in yourself and try and find out what's going on. Thinking. My answers are being mean. They ran away. Anyway, the point is you have to somehow do something weird and get rid of the insult behind your back. Why? It's causing you problems. Karatenu. Search out and destroy evil things. Anyway, so uh yeah, they had to figure out why he wasn't answering the insults. It's Kalakana, the greatest man alive. What did they figure out? My ancestors are still not here. They give me the information, folks. Let me go for a walk. They're being mean. Okay, guys. Let me try something. Kabunam no goha. All right. Full disclosure here, and this is weird because I've been saying it. When I say I'm talking to my ancestors, I'm actually talking to people. I'm not making it up. So these people have free will. Sometimes they can run away and stop talking to me. Why? I don't know. They like to test me or whatever. So I was getting information from them about a story, they left. So I'm not going to be able to do the fun stream of consciousness I wanted. I'm just going to analyze the bits and pieces of this story I've already gotten because I don't know what else to do. Because they have a personal agenda for me. They're trying to heal my trauma, which is all well and good. But at some point, I'm like, well, the paramedics aren't here, so let me just keep going. Anyway, now, what was I saying about Obusi Abido? So the idea of Obusi, to my understanding, is he's the thing. He's the man who can do everything. It's just it comes. Uh, and here's where I'm not totally sure how to say it. Okay, he's the man who can do everything, literally. It's just I'll say it like this. It comes at a cost, but the cost is not that he becomes someone who shouldn't exist or that he becomes evil. The cost is just he's a mess inside. Like he's always scrambling. And because of the way he's always scrambling, he does not project greatness. Think about it like this. Think about a soccer player who scored 30 goals in one season, but every time he shot the ball, he fell on his face. That's Obasi. Yeah, anyway, that's just kind of funny. I went for a walk. But that's Obasi. Another example, let's give a political example. Let's think of a politician whose policies were all good, but at the end of every speech, he fell on his face. That's Obasi. He doesn't project greatness, but his actions are great. So he's all over the place. Now, there's a lot of complication to Obasi. I'm learning about some of it. Some of it is cool. I won't go into the cool thing yet because the cool part about Obasi is not his defining principle. The defining principle is that his being, his state of being is bad, but his actions are good. That's Obasi. So, in order to create Obasi, to my understanding, they were supposed to give him a bad beginning. That stuff about Kala kind of was new, and then my ancestors are trying to insert things in about my trauma that I don't necessarily want to go into on live. I'll be honest. I don't feel like going into my atheism thing again. That just you know me. It's stupid. Just like to be an atheist anyway. Just all this secularism in society today. Oh, someone hasn't had the holy water poured on them in front of the crowd. They can't talk to spirits, and then you even demean that person, even though you institutionalize them as a world leader. Anyway, um, what's the point I'm making? Obasti Abido. He got the worst possible beginning. Don't look at the Kalakando thing. That wasn't even the beginning. But the worst possible beginning became worse than it was supposed to be. Because the thing is, at the beginning of existence, things weren't going as planned. That's another conversation. But it became worse. But he actually got through it even better than expected. So that's why Obus is really respected as a thing. Facts about Obusi. What is Obusi's animal? Primary animal overall. It's the animal we refer to as the giant elephant shrew or the sangi. So that's his animal. That is the thing that pushes the thing forward and its manifestation of its drive to reproduce. Every one of the things has that, as does every expansion person. What is his category of existence? The animal in which he sits. Because every category of well, this is what confuses me. I think every category of existence, like for an onyeka or a thing, is an animal. But there's stuff that's not animals, obviously, like plants. So they're all tied to these things. Do they just not sit in those things at all? What are they? I don't know. My ancestors haven't explained that to me yet. Anyway, Obusi's category of existence. It's one of those things we call like a tapir. Look it up. They're kind of like pigs, but the noses are like shorter and longer. Those kind of things. So yeah. Um, yeah. So anyway, that's Obusi. Another manifestation of it. The food we call cinnamon. That is Obusi as a plant or whatever herb. Eat it. It's good for you overall. And also eat nutmeg. Nutmeg is the final form of Obusi, the Owele, incredibile, incredible. That's basically Obusi without the downside. Yes, he gets there. It's cool. Anyway, learning of that story. I've put out art about Obusi. There's one art clip I've put up. I think I put up here on Linkwori and on Chimoe's comments. It's like a green man dancing. That's him. Because Obusi's colors are green and black. Also, think of superhero archetypes. That superhero archetype, it's like an eight or superhero mask. Forgive me. That's like an eight covering your face. That's Obusi. Because the translation of Obusi apparently is stopping the devil most exactly. What does that mean? He's always chasing him. That's the duality. If you're always chasing the devil, you'll always be in something. So there's a good and bad to that. But those superheroes, think about it. They're always chasing the bad guy. And when you zoom out, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Sometimes it does, but it seems like something crazy's going on. That's not the archetype of greatness, but the action is great because you stopped evil. That's Obusi. Anyway, this wasn't even a story time. I just felt compelled to blurt that out. What I title this, Anyanwu, the solar, that thing we call the sun. Anya. Most people in my language today say Anya means I. And then Anyang and Wo, light. So the eye of light. Apparently that's an accurate translation, but Anya is not I, according to my ancestors. This makes sense to me. It's power. Because in order to see, you need power in your body. So sight itself is like the power. Um, I guess that's true, but then there's a better way for me to think of it. It's like it's hard to express in English. It's like if you tell someone to look at something in my language. I mean, I think most people now probably say Leia. Le like le. Well, I think we're speaking like Ella anyway. But another way of saying it is Ti niha. Put your sight on this. Put your power on. Power on. So if you think of it, it's like we're all machines, and then when you want to look at something, you power on. Anya. So that's kind of the idea. I like to think of it like that. Anyway, Anyanwu. Anyanwu, the power of light, the power of fade. Fade. The power of perishing, because that thing can make you perish. Yes. Anyway, I just put that title there. I just felt compelled to. Now, what am I doing? I'm rounding out my work stuff I've been doing here. Yes. Uh, let's see. So there's four categories of work I'm looking at. The fifth category is my Henri Kanga, which is this stuff, where I'm doing quote unquote content creation. Um, I mean, the content creation will mix with everything, but you know what I mean. I'm thinking in terms of income streams specifically. So the first category is playing soccer, and then also jiongwen, which is stuff like appearing on other people's videos. How do I get the money for that? I ask. I should start to say it more broadly. How do I get stuff for that? How do I let people give me something for that? Let me say it like that, because you can, like, if someone were to give me food for work, up to a point, that's good. I say up to a point, because if you gave me like a million plates of food, I'm not gonna be able to eat that. But anyway, um, let's see. So how do I get stuff for that? I ask for payment for public appearances elsewhere. So is this articulable outside my head? Kind of. Basically, what I'm saying is I'm getting paid to appear publicly outside of my own abode. I'm a ma. I'm good. Then the next two, which is um, giving out metaphysical information and then doing as much work as I can possibly do for the sport of matter, which doesn't really exist anymore, but I'm going to recreate it, is four things. I'm asking for payment for one, giving people a piece of writing. Two, giving people a private conversation. Three, giving people a live stream. I'll make a live stream where I talk about what I can talk about publicly. And four, I'm going to make a song. But then, you know what, I see it now. Because the song I was initially thinking of is an audio-only song that'll be on streaming platforms. But then I think on the live stream, I should talk and then also sing. Okay, let me walk. Let me think about that. Abumadiyo ha paw paw pet. Abumadiyo ha paw paw pet. Abumadiyo ha he hey ha. Abumadiyo ha he hey ha. Okay, so yeah, I thought of that. That makes sense because the live stream, I'll talk and then I'll sing. And I really think I'll say this now on the audio songs. Every song I make from now on, unless I'm really just doing some Ekwensi hand, is also going to have me talking plainly so that people plainly understand what I'm saying. I guess that means, I guess I'll talk in English, then I'll talk in my language, and then I'll sing. I can't sing in English. I guess that's the Kanga, the movement. But then I have to make sure that the music itself, outside of the vocals, is really good so that when I'm talking, it's still musical. But at some point, isn't talking music? Because what's the exact line between singing and talking? It's interesting. Anyway, that's the uku. That's the four. Um, Thank you for every comment. I read comments at this discretion. This was a question from All Business 4174. How you got your beard like that, fam? And there's a fire. That's a compliment. Thank you very much. Literally, I just let it grow, and then nature does the rest. So thank you very much, and thank you to nature. Thank you to Okike. Thank you to my app. Beard just grows, and I'll leave it at that. But yes, my worst enemy is obsessed with cutting off my beard. All right. Anyway, then for the next category, which is Jichuku, which is basically giving a team talk. I just need to figure out how to make that fit into modern society because if I'm not like on the team or employed as a coach, why in the current situation will people have me give the team talk? I don't know. And then Egu, and this one I'm thinking about. Let's see, what do I mean here? Because I already have a music appearance category for Gyeongwon. What is Egu? Okay, I guess this is a subtle difference. For the Gyeongwon category, I can appear on someone else's already put together music and I just do something. Although, no, for that one, my voice has to appear. Because what's the point of me coming on there and playing instruments? You have to say something. Although, what if. No, I have to say something. At least, well, no, I have to say something because I'm just like shaking my maraca. I don't think people will know it's me. At least, like, not obviously. Because these are audio tracks, yeah. But for Egu, this is if I make a song completely myself at my own discretion, but someone else has the suggestion. So, say, like, someone pays me to make a song about nature. I just make the song. Okay. So, yeah, that's it. So then it's the same four things for all of these. I'm going to have a written explanation. I'm going to give them a private conversation. There's going to be a live stream, and then there'll be the song. Okay. So you see, those two are kind of at the bottom, and then that, they kind of have the same parameters. Okay. Then the last one is the one I'm really thinking about because this involves me working most intimately with other people. That's Ju Ajujobudo, which is basically exploring societal questions in person and or doing think tank stuff. Jew, ask, Adjuju, questions, Obodo, the sector, bootleg the country, you know what I mean? Or the society. Well, Obodo, society, yes. Asking society questions. Let's translate it like that from now on. And then Chio Bakundo, which is just running a sports group, aka club. Um, Before I thought about it, here we go. How do I think about this? Because what do I do to make sure I can get paid for those now? put them in the same category. The first one I can think of, because part of that is stuff like, say, if I were to work at a um, or do work at a like a library, something like that, and I'm envisioning behind the scenes work. Because I'll just say this now: if I'm doing work with someone else's group, I'm not the front desk guy. Like, I'm not the guy. I'm not a cashier. Like, I'm just too aggressive for that. If the customer, I mean, it's funny. I've done that before, but it's like if the customer is being rough, I'm just gonna swat them away. You see, um, when I was doing jobs like that before, why did I not swat people away? I guess I know. Well, I don't know. I guess it didn't happen, at least in a way that consciously registered to me. But I know myself. When I'm myself, if someone I don't like comes through, and or someone comes through and becomes someone I don't like, I'm not the hospitality person. I'm just gonna wepu, 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 wepu. Just remove them. So no, that's not good. You need, for that kind of job, you need a different personality. And then also just for myself, because I don't want to cause myself any trauma. If some bad person comes, I'm not the guy to just hold that in that capacity. That's not me. But behind the scenes work, like, say, stocking things, you know, I can do that just because, I mean, obviously you could have a problem with your coworker, but that's different. It's just if a rando comes through and I have to deal with them. No. Um, so yeah, I can do that. That one I can conceptualize, or like I'm helping someone gather data with certain parameters, that kind of thing. The only question is then just finding a reasonable person to work with and or under. Just the way things are structured, I'll be honest. I've talked about this before. The structure is not for me. I'm wondering how much to give here. Because, say, what I'm envisioning in this category is having the option to do part-time work at a place, flexible part-time work. And that's just how I'm phrasing it quickly. The only thing is this whole concept of having a boss, because I just know how it tends to go. Eventually, that person will start ordering me left and right. And either, well, in the past, I would have just sucked it up and destroyed myself. Not good. Or the boss is no longer my boss, and I have another criminal I'm pursuing. That's just how it tends to go. There needs to be a different structure. Side note, I'm thinking a lot about the way organizations are structured in terms of hierarchy. There's too much rigid hierarchy in organizations, and it causes a lot of abuse. There's been a lot of talk in the past about romantic crimes that involve someone exploiting a position over someone else. I just think part of the reason that's happening is there's too much excessive rigid hierarchy. Yes, hierarchy is necessary, but if you put it in an organization that's massive and it's supposed to be there forever and it's very rigid, it's a bit too much. And it can lead to things like that. A model I've gotten is where people just partner and people play different rules. So you'll have your leader, but the leader is not, how do I explain it? First of all, I don't know about people forming permanent organizations. Let me be careful here. Let me think of how to say it. Let me go on a walk. this is an important idea and it's still cooking, so I don't want to say too much, but I'll say two things. This is an idea, this is part of an idea for an organization structure that would solve this problem I'm talking about. One, the organization is in theory temporary. And two, it is a collective organization that is formed from people's individual organizations. Like, say, Ozi Benwoko decided to do a collaboration with someone else, and we have our temporary organization. In theory, it could happen again and again, but yeah. And then within that organization, no one is like, I guess there's just room for people to back out, and then that allows people room to maneuver and navigate other dynamics. I'll leave it at that. I hope that makes some sense. That's not the total rollout. Anyway, what am I saying? I want to make sure I don't end up in a situation where I have a quote unquote bad boss. Because that no, that doesn't go. And then also, given my health and my rhythm, I don't want to be locked into a schedule and or being ordered to run left and right in Kosovo. That's just not me. And also, it just like, I'll say it like this. This is a weird thought. School took out of me the energy I could have used to waste my time having a dirty job, for lack of a better term, in my 20s. Not that that's even a good thing, but school involved so much of me absorbing trauma that to do that again for work now, it's actually not physically possible. Again, I'm still building my health back up. But to just go into one of those jobs where you're running around like Obussy, and the ancestors are back. You people. Anyway. I'm just thinking. Anyway, Obussy Bido, not me. I'll just say this though. It confuses me in the world today the way the average person, and especially a certain segment of above average people, and I'll say this, just because you're above average in terms of your economic station and your natural station in life does not mean you're a good person. Like I was doing the profile of the hypothetical Trump supporter yesterday. That is an evil above average person. You can have that. But anyway, it confuses me the way these people think of a quote unquote job. First and foremost, the inherent disrespect for even their boss, and maybe that's part of it. Are they just trying to fight their boss? Get a job, as in get. Okay, let me move. I'm going for a walk, forgive me. Abu make a GK, Abu make a Aboom kamalazi ha. Mumadi you nivea. Mumadi you he ha. Mumadi you he ha. Mumadi you he ha. Forgive me, I'm thinking. Forgive me, I'm thinking. Abomadiyo he hey ha. 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 Abomadiyo see this bar. Forgive me, I'm thinking. My answers are telling me some things. Let me just finish that thought I was putting out. Basically, I'm confused by what I'm seeing as the weird disrespect people have for their bosses that gets filtered into concepts like get a job, as in work for someone else, implicitly an environment where you're getting abused and or getting ordered around. But implicitly you don't have respect for the person who's ordering you around if you think get a job is what everyone should do. And then there's the second caveat where you think the person ordering you around is a weird exception because they're God. So if someone who's not God to you, as in someone who's a real person, says I'm going to start a business and or is doing work that does not involve them destroying themselves at the behest of a quote unquote higher authority, you attack. Weird mentality. Here's the weirder thing: the idea that that is a financially responsible action. We live in a world of widespread financial irresponsibility, and because finances is collective, that means the minority of people, and yes, I'll go and say it, only a minority of people are financially responsible. The minority of people who are financially responsible even struggle. You cannot make money by yourself. But the idea that going to work for a random person, and I'm just going to say it like that because there's a lot of metaphysically crazy assumptions in there in that sense. But the idea that going to work for a random person who does not know you and has no connection to you in a rigid hierarchical structure where you are nothing but a piece of work that can be thrown away at any moment. The idea that that's a financially responsible decision is crazy. And we see it all the time with the phenomenon of firing. People get fired all the time. And then because people are watching TV, we assume everyone gets rehired because Ross got rehired on Friends or whatever. No, let me go for a walk. Anyway, I've talked about that before. I've talked about the disrespectful people who've insulted me by advancing the idea that I'm an evil person for calling out that stupidity and enacting it in my actions. At the same time, because the vast majority of people are moving in line with that stupidity, it presents a conundrum because work is collective. So if the collective is deciding to move stupidly, it's hard. Because on the one hand, if I move smartly, I will be in a much smaller group, to say the least. On the other hand, a big group can fall together and let me move. Morning. Okay, just making sure volume was all appropriate. Nothing bad happened. Just someone else came in. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking. So that's the challenge. Fourth one. Hmm. And then the underlying challenge to all this is my health issues. And this is the biggest problem. My ancestors are back. I do not like acknowledging when I have health issues, which feels weird because I'm always talking about it. You know what? This is where we need to get into reincarnation. Let me say it like this. In my average life, I am the last person to say I'm unhealthy because health is a madyo itself. So if I were to say that, that's basically saying I'm worm. In my current life, though, because another one of my defining characteristics is responsibility. In my current life, I simply have to note that my health is not where I want it to be, and my ancestors want me to add caveats. I'm going to hold them back because I don't want to do too much mid sentence. Anyway, and they ran away. Anyway, here's the point I'm making though. In the current world, people do not care about their health. And I'm just going to not say anything. People do not care about their health. So when people do not care about their health, the person who usually does not say, I'm unhealthy, looks like a health nut. And I'll leave it at that. Anyway, let me walk and talk to these people. This is a side note. You know what? Let me just say this. There's a lot of demonization of technology in the world today. That's different than critique of technology and critique of people's use of technology. I'm a big critic of technology and people's use of it. Our technology can be better, and people can use technology better. The phone does not have to control you. Just when you don't want to use it, do something else. That's my biggest piece of advice, okay? It's not that hard. And if you find yourself using your phone a lot, maybe you're just a hard worker. Don't be weird about it. Anyway, but there's a lot of demonization of technology. A lot of people act like these things are satanic or whatever. I don't know what to do. It is a machine. Like, wake up. Get your head out of the Bible. Anyway, what's the point I'm making? This device I'm using, this cell phone, is actually a subset of what is known as uzukumihe, omihe, self stuff. The self manifests physically. We cannot be proper beings without our self technology. Yes, there was a time when people did not have self technology. The world can get very bad. Let me move. Anyway, what's the overall point I was making there? This self technology. My ancestors like for me to have this on, be streaming when they talk to me. But right now they want to talk to me, so I'm walking around. Let me say in a worldly, secular way, it's easy for me to think when my phone is on, streaming live and I'm walking around the room but not on screen. I don't know why. It just feels good. It's subjective. It's like how some people feel good when they sit on the couch and are eating popcorn or something. Why does that feel good? I don't know. Anyway, I'm just gonna go do some of that. Again, we need to be goal oriented in our actions. Just because the internal description of behind the action didn't match what you want, Anthony, doesn't mean that the person is unwell. Anyway, let's go. Thinking. Anyway, what am I thinking here? My ancestors really don't like me just looking at my work. Not that they don't want me to work, they're just saying that, to be honest, I don't understand what they're saying, but it looks like they're saying I'm fine or something. I don't know. Yeah. Hmm. Abu Mamadiyo Nivea. Ah. Thinking. Whenever I'm thinking, I'm conversing with my ancestors. I don't feel like doing the signification this time, but I'm still mad at the people who've insulted me. Anyway, um, I don't know, just thought I was having. Message from the ancestors. When the world is broken, you cannot necessarily be yourself perfectly. Maybe you can't even be yourself at all. At the same time, if you have not adjusted to the conditions on the ground, you have deviated, and that is not good. And I'll leave it at that. What am I saying here? As I think about it and talk to my ancestors, I think a lot of my anger at things that happen has to do with the fact that I can't operate as I would operate in a perfect world. Yes, the world can be perfect. No, that doesn't mean you'll never get a scrape or whatever. So, what am I saying here? For example, we should not actually have crime in the world. So when crime actually comes into the world, it throws me off because I have to completely adjust. So there are certain things I would usually do or identify with that I don't. Find a way to explain that in more detail later. But if I were to not adjust to the reality of crime in the world, that is not me. That is not my being, you see. So I think as a connection point to that, there are a lot of people in the world today who do crazy things because they want to operate as if this is not an emergency protocol. They want to operate as if there's not actually crime in the world. So then they do crazy things and it becomes a crime itself. Anyway. Hmm. How do I? Okay, first, just thinking about that fourth job category. Makes sense. Let's look at this. Maybe should I try and envision the more ideal scenario for these jobs? Maybe that's why I'm having trouble. Shiobakundu. What does that mean? Running the sports group or sports club. Shit, running. I guess you could say that. Running, willing, running. Okay, I guess it's a good translation. So that's one of my jobs. In today's world, it's a long term thing. But it occurs to me it doesn't have to. What if every day a different person decided what, say, Manchester United did, or a different person decided what Arsenal did, different person decided what the Atlanta Hawks did, something. mean, that could happen. Yeah, just it's not how things are done. But if that happened, that wouldn't be hard for me to envision doing it now. Maybe you could have like a 20-year-old do it for like a week and then, you rotate out. That's something. Yeah, I think that's probably the context in which I'm supposed to do that. Side note, we have to admit, most of the most vocal sports fans actually know what they're talking about at a high enough level that they could actually operate a team or like integrate into the team running structure. I mean, there's no way that they stare at the thing all day and come up with all the backup tactics and cholo that one guy who made the mistake and they couldn't run it at a basic level, especially when you look at all the mistakes that so-called experts make when they're in position. What am I saying? Maybe running sports is not actually that complicated. It's just some people are very good at it, so there should be more opportunities to do that. Anyway, I mean, like, really, you have soccer teams losing 5-0. How bad could it get? Abu Madia, Abu Madia, Abu Madia, he hey ha, Abu Madia, he hey ha, Abu Tete Chuku no one keta, Abu Tete Chuku ko ki ke kan, Abu Madia, he, Abu Madia, he hey ha, Abu Madia, thinking, Abu Madia. So anyway, what does that mean for me? Obviously, you have less high profile sports teams like rec groups, so called rec groups, but running those is quite intensive. That's not all I want to do. Well, I mean, it's not. Then there's a stability thing. Is that necessarily unstable? No. Then there's constraints. Should I give it a go? Maybe I should give it a go. But what does that mean? Let's see. Am I gonna start my own? No. I don't have enough resources and everything to do that. But then if you're looking at already existing ones, am I gonna come in there and rule the thing? Not like that, no. Then there comes the specter of quote unquote working for them. But what would that mean? Would I have a say in how the team runs really, or am I just like putting out cones? And then I also want to say this: sports organizations disproportionately cater towards children in the world today, as in outside of the quote unquote top level. That's not to say that we need less that cater to children. We just need more that allow adults to play as well. What am I saying? Chances are, if I look for a job with a sports team, I'll end up in a role where I'm taking care of children. That is a sacred duty. I don't want to mess around with that, especially because the way most sports operate, they do damage to children in various ways. I'll give two examples. One, telling a child they're not good at sports. That is sacrilege. All right, so one, that's sacrilege. Telling a child they're not good at sports. I'm not even gonna go into it. It's obvious they're gonna grow up. You don't know what they'll grow up to be. It's really a hole in my beard anyway. I guess we'll see what happens. Really growing in segments. I'm not the guy to glorify my face. Not like that. It's functioning. Anyway. They use that machine. I'm just gonna say it. Shaving your beard is obviously useless and weird. People literally cut themselves doing it. That's not healthy. How could that be healthy? It's not necessary. Just focus on making your beard healthy. I mean, let me go. Just, let me just sit here. So, telling kids they're not good at sports is sacrilege. One, is that really it? I guess everything rolls into that. Like, say you pick a starting 11 for a U13 soccer team, and I'm always using soccer because that's my favorite sport. And every game, those are the people you put in there. Have you not destroyed a bunch of children's destinies? And then the obsession with winning in kids' sports. Like, obviously, when they're going out there, yes, they will try to win. Yes, you should, in good faith, try and help them win. But also, at some point, you just have to just do things that will obviously make them lose in the moment. Like, yes, that kid who's not quote unquote doing well right now, if you put him in, will concede 5 goals. But just let it happen. They need to develop. And you don't see that very much in the world today. Everyone wants the U12s to win the like just win the World Cup. I mean, come on. Ugh. Anyway, so yeah, for me to do that, no. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Okay, but let's say I said as a condition I won't work with kids just because that won't work out for the reasons I outlined. Although that also feels weird because I do want to start my own sports club eventually, and yes, there will be a kids segment. What am I doing with Chill Bakundu? Let's look at this another way. Cause for Juhaji Joba though, there's a capacity where I have to go out and look at things. So there's certain industries I want to go out and look at the supply chain. So like for example, like libraries and also I'm forgetting the other word now. But anyway, places where they get books. That is a supply of the equens of the world. That which book begins the thought of the world. I want to see what books people are reading, where they're coming from, and all that. I want to look at that. Okay. And there's other industries. So that I'd have to work with other people, and I can more easily see how that could work with the constraints of society today. Side note, the only reason I wasn't doing this before, again, is because I was even sicker than I am now. Yes, I'm still not at 100%. So to go out and work with other people wasn't possible. And side note, I haven't actually done this yet because, well, I'm just coming out of that deepest level of illness. So, you know, we're still planning it anyway. So Juhaji Joe, but I'm not worried about. How does this dovetail with Chiobakendu? Because the idea about these are the jobs that I do not relish in doing as much. Hmm. Jichuku exists in theory is below them, but really I enjoy giving the team talk, like telling everyone what will make them win. It's just that is very difficult. And then there's just like one thing about it. Just thinking here. I was just thinking about that. Anyway, the one thing I don't like about Jichuku, like giving the team talk, and like inherently when I think about it, obviously there'll be tactics in there. I guess I'm just not the tactician. Like I'm not the guy who's gonna come back 10 times. You know what? I think that's the difference between me and the Chet. I described that before on a different live stream. I forget which network I was on. Anyway, that person is really gonna constantly talk to people. Hey, make sure you're on your square. Blah blah blah. I just give it out. This is the tactic, and then they accept it or whatever. But I guess to an extent, whatever. To some extent, I have to big up an individual even when they're doubting me. At least I have to interact. Is it just like someone asks a question I answer? Maybe I don't know. Anyway, that kind of thing where people are doubting the truth and I have to go in and just make it click more. It's annoying. Um, so Okay. Anyway, point is, Juaji Jobudo, Chiyobakundo, asking societal questions and running sports groups. Why do they go together? They're the two jobs that are kind of least pleasurable for me to do. That doesn't mean they're bad. It's just like I won't put as much oomph in them, and they're also both relatively hard for me to do. The one below them is hard for me to do, but it's very pleasurable. So okay, I put it with Egu. Interesting. So what does this mean? They should have the same reward structure. Okay, let me walk. Am I gonna get to the answer right now? I have time anyway. They should have the same reward structure. You know what? Let me just think of the reward structure. Or no, is that messy? To think of the reward structure and not actually envision how the job would work. This one, I know how the job would work. I'm just seeing the potential for quote unquote getting fired, but because I have other uh, lines of work, I could take the hit, which is part of the idea. But then also, I just have to figure out how to find a job situation where the firing thing is less likely. Uh, Also, side note, I'm not totally sure which end of the coin I'm on here, but there's kind of two schools of thought related to me as I'm just going to say a black person who is a college graduate. I know there's other gradations, I'll just leave it at that. As a black person who's a college graduate, there are two schools of thought. A, somehow you're invincible because you're a college graduate, or B, because you're black, you're still terrible, you won't make it. I don't really know which of those illogical schools of thought is hitting me the most with my detractors and other people have harmed me. But in regards to the idea that I'm invincible, I think some people might think, and then I have to add in the Harvard element because people think you're invincible because you went to Harvard. No. Even data shows you're not invincible because you went to an Ivy League school. People will think that it's unreasonable for me to I think I'm starting to see what their thought process is. They think there's no way I won't quote unquote get hired because Harvard makes me invincible. But then they think there's no way that my business will succeed because I'm black. So they think my life trajectory gave me this weird superpower where I'm invincible if I do what everyone else is doing. But if I do something different, I will perish. You know what? I think that's what's going on in their mind. If they claim something else is going on, I think they don't understand their subconscious. That's what I've seen from all these people. That is LA. What on earth does that even mean? But that doesn't make any sense because by virtue of being a black person who went to an elite school, I didn't do what everyone else was doing. I'm dealing with deviants. Awale tambu zambu gaga. Awale tambu zambu dada. Anyway, one of the reasons I've been thinking a lot about that is because people's lack of belief in me and or just their action that goes against me has made it hard for me to operate because I don't have people to work with. And it's ironic because it'd be very simple. For example, if my evil family members had just supported my YouTube, why do I always say, let's just say YouTube, because maybe they couldn't see all of it. Maybe if they just supported my YouTube channel when I started it, um, you know, like they just sent it to like five of their friends. Maybe 10 of them sent it to five of their friends. I could have started out with something, but they didn't do that, you know. And again, because of the way my family was, I didn't, one, my parents, I really just did this with them because they're just infinite critics. So I just did this. Like I'm just doing this motion. Then for people who weren't my parents, like more, it's weird to say more distant connections. That's just a source. That just shows how broken the world is. If someone's not your parent, they're a distant family connection. Especially in America, everyone acts like your quote unquote cousins are distant. Those are your brothers and sisters. Anyway, um, the whole point is for those other people, because the way my family is, a lot of fracturing had happened. I didn't emphasize business. I didn't really talk about it too much. And then also there are individuals who are kind of uh, in my parents' school of thought. So I was like, let me not bring it up. So because of that combination, I didn't talk about it too much. Because at the end of the day, before you talk business with family, you have to have a basic rapport. Although your family should have a business element to it. I mean, really, family is a business. The problem is people think business now is achunjo. It's not what it is. Business is not supposed to be cold. If a business is cold, they shouldn't get customers. The only reason cold businesses get customers now is because evil is everywhere and people have dropped their standards. So people just keep going back to businesses that abuse them, and I'll leave it at that. Anyway, um, ancestors were speaking there. Anyway, uh, what's the point here? People doubt me and or just choose to be bad. So I don't have a simple group of people that can just help my business get to the next step. Obviously, I have other people who are helping me. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you to everyone who's sharing videos and watching. It's just there are a lot of people I know who like know in person and or am related to. And I'll say this: if I've met a family member via text, that is the same to me as someone I know in person because we have a gene connection. So I hold it in the same regard. Kalakana. Anyway, um, there are people of that ilk who could easily help me, and they just have not. So that makes it annoying for me to operate. And because of that, it makes it hard for me to really think. It just makes it hard for me to assess next steps in a way, because not one reason. It just like, for example, what does it mean for me to criticize myself if so many people have just been below standard? Relate if I compare my operation and the people who could help me to those of other people in a similar lane. Like so many people who start a business get help from family and other people they know in person. Something as simple as, say following your account or just telling people about it, or maybe coming in and purchasing some stuff. I haven't had that, you see. Not that I haven't gotten donations, but I mean, there's a lot of people. I'm thinking, let me just focus on my family, my blood relatives. They've not done shit. So, you know, the problem is just my family decided to go off into a Quincy. I change what I'm doing, but then it's a part of me that gets fatalistic. Am I able to overcome Anthony and his evil? Hmm. It's the other thing. There's this idea people have. There's this idea people have. People I know, especially my family members. There's this idea that you can quote unquote get a job without support. That doesn't make any sense. Getting a job is not a process. Let me give you a statistic. According to one study I saw, I believe either Indeed did the study or the study was done based off of jobs obtained on Indeed. I'll try and find it again, get it exactly. 60% of job hirings occurred with the help of connections. What does that mean? Most likely, if you want to get quote unquote get a job, you need to have a connection to a real person. If you're just emailing someone, you most likely won't get it. But there's this idea that all you have to do is email. Like my worst enemy, Anthony, my biological father. Yes, your biological father can be your worst enemy. I mean, that should be nothing to say in today's society where everyone's always talking about deadbeat dads, but I don't know. Anyway, um, he when he was abusing me when I was even sicker than I am now for not quote unquote having a job. Side note, that whole time, like the period before I came to Atlanta, between graduation from college and coming to Atlanta, most of that time I was working or attempting to work. I was just sick, and I'll leave it at that. Then in Atlanta, most of that time, as in after the first like 4 months when I was in Atlanta, I like took like a month break after I came here to decompress. Then I took a month to go on a quote unquote job search. I didn't get a satisfactory job offer. I did get a job offer. It's just the salary was lower than what was necessary for me. And then the job was would have been very stressful, so it didn't make sense to take it. And then also that they didn't seem that desperate to hire me, but they did give me an offer. So with all that combination, I was like, yeah, let me leave it alone, especially because my health was in the floor. Anyway, after that 2 month period, I had 2 months where I was just sick. I wasn't doing much. But then I was thinking, and then after that, I was working. I created Ozibengoku. I employed myself. And self employment is a form of employment. And I also want to signify on Dr. B, Anthony's Anthony's Etenja, let me call it that. His connection that shouldn't exist. They're thick as thieves, those two. That bootleg therapist who tried to over and over, repeatedly. I'll go into the story in more depth in the future, but I want to make sure I can speak on everything. Repeatedly signified on me in a negative manner by saying I was being financially irresponsible. That whole time you were talking to me, I was employed. Self employment is a form of employment. That man should have stayed in his lane. The lane I hired him for. Yes, I hired him. And I hired him without paying because he decided to offer me a free service, I guess to spy on me for Anthony. Although I don't know what information they were passing, because I'll be honest. Anthony weaseled himself into a position where even though I stopped talking to him, he knows where I live. I don't know what else there is. And even though that was therapy, I didn't literally tell Dr. B every inch of information about my life. Not necessary, not possible. And after a while, I wasn't even comfortable doing that to the extent I was in the first place. Anyway, whole point is that man was hired to talk about the health of my mind, not money. He didn't display the qualification to do that, and I didn't ask him. But then he decided to keep talking about it. All he said is again this ihan lihan that getting a job is secure. Tufiakwa. And also, I'm not 100% sure um, that he even worked for someone else. The way he set up his operation, it seemed like he was at least presenting it as if he worked for himself. And that's its own complicated issue. But anyway, um, what am I saying here? Juajijobido. I think I lost the initial train of thought, but I think the goal was just to get that out. Part of anger is just for me to get things out, you know. You can't just bottle things in. Like Kala kind of would at first, and then he exploded and became a titty again for a second. Interesting. Um, Ju Ajijogodo. I know how that'll work, basically. Just the world has to adjust a bit. Shiobakundu. Should I just look at sports supplies? I guess that's part of that. Is it the same thing? Because let's think about it. The biggest version of asking societal questions is basically running my own think tank. Am I going to do that right now? No. Maybe for both of these, I'm just looking into supplies, sports supplies, and behind the scenes stuff. Let me think about it. Okay. The thought feels weird, but I think that's it. I think what this is I have to get in positions where I can look at supplies for different industries because um, that's part of it. Because after all, to run a sports team, you need to supply the players, right? Anyway, and then you need to look into their health and things of that nature. You know. You know what? I see it now. A big part of my interest in health is looking at athlete health. Lord have mercy. Why did I never see that? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What do you Okay, the ancestors are speaking now. What is sport? Life. Ndu, life. Kyobakundu. Running the group of life. Running the self of life. Running that which holds life together. Sports today are too narrow. We're not just supposed to be looking at those people who take the pitch. Look at all of society. Everyone is an athlete. Amadioha. Amadioha. Okay, so that was important information. Why am I giving it out? I have 2 lanes for Kyobakundu. Let's let's get the uku of supplies I'm going to be looking into. Kyobakundu. It has its own uku. Wow, they all have their own uku. So one, let me look at shoes. Modern shoe culture is very frivolous, and I'll leave it at that. I want to change that. Shoes, shorts slash pants. I'm looking at them from a health perspective because you need your athletic gear. Then let me say supplements because you need supplements, which is really a subset of food. And then what's the fourth one? The ancestors ran away or something. They always be running, 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 running. They be runners, they be track stars. They be runners, they be track stars. They be runners, they be track stars. Abu Mamadi yo adu ya. Abu Mamadi yo adu ya. Abu Mamadi yo Abu Mamadi yo Abu Mamadiha Marama, Abu Mamadiha Nua, Abu Mamadiha Yeha, Abu Mamadiha Yeha. Okay. Shoes, shorts slash pants, supplements. What else do you need for life? Am I gonna say shirts? The shirt problem. What do I mean by that? There are many scenarios where in modern society we wear shirts where we don't need to. For example, if it's hot and sunny, you really don't need a shirt necessarily. So it's not in the same crucial zone as these things. Wherever you're going, you need shoes. I know some people walk barefoot, but that's generally unsafe. Shorts, I mean, Outside of your house, generally speaking, you need to put on pants. Kind of need to say. Um, Obviously, you need supplements. What else? Ancestors aren't helping me. And they're ignorant because they're too young. So, what do I mean when I say that? Everyone's EKG goes back on average 5,000 to 4,000 years, right? Those are the people in your gene pool. That's according to my ancestors. That makes sense because when you think about it, your EKG should be large. And when you just think back how many connections that would be, it could be thousands of years. It would be thousands of years. And then also just if you think of it in more, I guess, quick terms, people often talk about how they feel impacted by events of the past. A classic one, I know it's dark, is the event I call Agawepes Ador. What happened between 700 AD and 1865? Okay. I know there's other more common names people use for it. I don't like to use it because it's not quite accurate. It was a lot worse than what that implies. But anyway, um, people talk about feeling impacted by that event and related things because of what happened to their ancestors, as in family. If they were your family 500 years ago, and maybe that might be like your four times great grandfather or something, if you keep going, like you'll still have people in your gene pool much farther back than that. I mean, on my own maternal matrilineal family tree, which I've posted before, it goes back to my 11 times great grandmother. So that's a while ago. Still need to do more research to figure out the exact dates of each person's birth there. Anyway, but that'll be a while ago. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just thinking. Was I thinking about that again? I think I said something about modern society, then I started talking about the past. Anyway, uh, what's crucial stuff? Shoes, pants. I mean, there's scenarios you could go without pants, but it's rare. Um, Although ironically, and I'll just say it, the scenarios where you could go without pants get minimized because of a lot of just racism, white supremacy, and prudishness mixed together. Like, for example, if someone's in their house by themselves, they have the right to dress how they want. I'll put it like that. But oftentimes, people might feel like they can't do that because they feel like they always have to wear a 10-piece suit or whatever. And I'll leave it at that. Anyway, um, anyway, the point is when you're going out, most times you need pants, right? Shoes, shorts, pants, supplements. Hmm. Maybe I'll just do cleaning supplies. Because you need to clean the sports area, right? And you just need to clean your life. Cleaning stuff. Cleaning stuff. Yeah. Okay. Now let's do the uku for Jew Aju Jobado. What is the vibe for this uku? Okay, there's one I'll just get out of the way. I'll say stuff for romance, and I'll just say it like that because I mean that is necessary. I'll leave it at that. I'm thinking stuff for romance. Um, uh, let me say books. Let me just say written documents. This is harder. Written docs. Okay. The other two. For these ones, I guess I won't necessarily. You know what? I see it now. For these ones, I shouldn't really care too much about the salary because I mean, there's like a baseline. I mean, you have minimum wage now. I mean, it's something. I mean, obviously, it's not always enough for people and their needs, but I mean, minimum wage is something. I'm adjusting, but you have minimum wage, so I'll get paid. But I should just look at the overall situation, especially one, the working conditions, and two, timing, how it'll affect my lifestyle. Because realistically, if I do some sort of part time thing in these roles, right? If I'm feeling good, in theory, I could work a lot in a certain period. And then also, uh, well, here's what I'm trying to say. Also, I could, if I'm feeling good, it wouldn't slow down my other work. So I'll earn there as well. But I think I shouldn't filter by salary. When I did a quote unquote job search in 2021, I think I filtered by salary. Did I? Actually, I don't think I did. Well, was that? But a lot of people didn't disclose the salary. Anyway, whatever. I won't look at that too much. I'll be paid. My needs. Here we go. If minimum wage, say minimum wage is like 11 an hour. I think that's what it is. Or is it? Let's say it's 7 an hour in Georgia. I think it's probably higher than that. Say 1 week I worked 10 hours. So I make $70 before tax. And then I do, well, let's look at that week. But they tend to pay every 2 weeks. Say I do it again. So I make 140 before tax. Say with tax, they take 30% away. What does that mean? What is 30% of 140? 10% of 140 is 14. 14, 14, 28. Plus another 14, that's 42. So I'd get $98 for 2 weeks of work. That's basically a little less than, but basically 2 days of good eating. Not that much, but the idea is that I have flexibility. So it's an extra help, but I can increase my work rate if necessary. Anyway, the point is it'll have some flexibility. And then other stuff will be coming in. Okay, stuff for that. Written documents. What else? Oh, let's just say recording equipment. Yes. Rec. Keep. I know what I mean. Ekejike, koshike, abumekeji, kenke, koshike. Abumamadio hankishi. Abumonishi kalakana. Abumonishi kalanana mana. Abumatu matu amadioha. Abumamadioha. Abumamadioha. Ekejike, koshike, abumekeji, kenke, koshike. What's the fourth category? Kabrinam Nogaha. Let's go on a stroll. Gary, Gary, boom, Gary, 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 boom, incredible, 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 Abu Migwe, Abu Mobi Chuko, Abu Moparu, Shuku, Koko, Abu Matu Matu Amadioha, Abu Mamadioha Kishi, Abu Monishi Kalaka, Kandabia, Migwe. Egejike, Koshike, Abumekejike. Category 1, written documents, recording equipment, and then what else? This stuff. Am I just gonna go around and ask if I can work with people who look at these supplies and then just see what happens? Maybe, but that's all over the place. Oh. Oh, musical equipment. Yeah, every once in a while I think I should work in a music shop. But this is the problem. I can't work in the shop because then I have to deal with customers like directly. That's not me. I'm yeah, what I'm looking for is a warehouse. The only thing is a lot of warehouses are rough. Yeah, a lot of warehouses are rough. Ugh. Hmm. Anyway, let's just say egu, egu hen. That's it. Anyway, so those are the things I'll target working with. How to do that? What's the standard way to do that? One, I have to put up an ad for my services. That's one. So I'll break standard for that kind of because a lot of people put resumes up, but it'll mine will be more comprehensive. Two, then reaching out to people. I guess the process is the same. It's just the conditions. What are the conditions? This is my thought, although my ancestors are telling me to be more optimistic than this. The world is broken, so in order to work with other people, I have to jide a certain amount of aru, pressure. And I'm just going to translate it like that to be most accurate, but this is the pressure that is not good. People will pressure me in a way that is not good. So my thought process is my health has to be to a certain point to jide the pressure. My ancestors do not disagree with me that my health has to be at a certain point. They're just saying I could find jobs without that kind of pressure. And then weird side thought. I've dealt with a lot of detractors who told me no, my health does not have to be up to that point, and then they do various things because they're saying that I can just do it when I'm not healthy. The caveat to this is these people tend to run around all over the place when they're not healthy, and I don't know because they're always complaining. But if I interrogate them, they're doing okay. Either that or they stop speaking and they look at me like Ele. Hapuelele. Anyway, I guess it's it. Hapuelele. Anyway, I think this is the goal for today's anger. Let me give out two bonus pieces of information, and then I'll leave you with a double question. First bonus piece of information. Calling in my patrilineage. Eat Dark chocolate. Eat dark chocolate. It has health benefits. Second bonus piece of information. Wear shoes that are comfortable. Wear shoes that are comfortable. Those are them. Then, here's the double question. Question one. What is work? What is work? Question two. How often do you have to interact with your family? How often do you have to interact with your family? Anyway, thank you very much. Please like, share, subscribe, buy my art, buy my merch, subscribe on Patreon, and also donate. Let me get out the sheet with the donation options. You can donate on PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. On PayPal and Venmo, that's at OZBangWoko. And on Cash App, that's $OZBangWoko. You can see it there. Anyway, thank you very much. See you next time. Every view is a blessing.